Am I my brother's keeper? Yes, I am. Am I my brother's keeper? Yes, I am. Am I my brother's keeper? Yes, I am. To this day.
Nino Brown Boxing, and I'm back in the building. Shout out to the LDBC. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. All right, man. I've been thinking about the possible outcomes for this upcoming Terence Crawford versus Kell Brook fight. And it got me thinking, what if Kell Brook wins? What if Kell Brook pulls off the unexpected? I understand a lot of people are talking about the possibility of an upset. And me personally, even if Kell Brook was to defeat Terence Crawford, I personally wouldn't look at this as an upset. I look at this fight being a lot closer than what people like to make it out to be, for the simple fact that Kell Brook is naturally bigger. Kell Brook has fought as high as middleweight, and Terence Crawford has moved up to his third weight class now. When you factor those things in, along with Kell Brook's skill, but Kell Brook's willingness to quit, and Terence Crawford's skill, but he has a smaller size, to me it makes the fight pretty damn even. But I didn't necessarily want to talk about the fight. I'll do that later. I want to talk about if Kell Brook was to pull this shit off, right? What does that mean? And I was like, well, that means that Kell Brook is a WBO welterweight champion, and he's a welterweight champion once again. But then it got me thinking about, well, the WBO #1 mandatory is Shawn Porter. And we all know Shawn Porter and Kell Brook, they fought before. Kell Brook took his belt, and we can talk about the politics, whatever the case may be. Shawn Porter never avenged that loss. Now, when it comes to this Terence Crawford situation at welterweight right now, a lot of people have been talking about, well, Crawford needs to face someone, and Shawn Porter's name was thrown around a lot. Now, in the situation that Terence Crawford loses and he becomes completely irrelevant, my #1 question is, does Shawn Porter take the opportunity and cash in on his WBO #1 ranked spot, and would he face Kell Brook? Now, a lot of people like to talk about how long ago that loss to Kell Brook was for Shawn Porter, but to me, it's extremely relevant. I mean, it's as relevant as Lomachenko losing to Salido. Both of them fights happened in 2014. They were only 5 months apart. So, considering all the talk surrounding this recent fight with Teofimo Lopez and Lomachenko, and how the Salido loss was definitely a relevant factor in discussing that fight before it happened, Shawn Porter's loss to Kell Brook, that shit is just as relevant. With that being said, I feel like in the situation that Kell Brook was to win, if Shawn Porter doesn't push for his opportunity to, first of all, get back at Kell Brook, but also put himself in a position to become a champion again at 147 under the WBO sanctioning body, to me it's going to be extremely telling. I've noticed that Shawn Porter, he is like the poster boy for the WBC. He's like a WBC brand ambassador, even if he doesn't have a championship. It's like WBC or nothing when it comes to Shawn Porter. So if Shawn Porter does not push for his WBO shot, win or no matter who wins, but let's just say in this situation that Kell Brooks win, it's going to tell me a whole lot when it came to all of those discussions with Terence Crawford facing someone the likes of a Shawn Porter. Now, if he does exercise it, then it'll definitely put things into perspective when it came to the whole Shawn Porter Terence Crawford thing and situation. And Terence Crawford didn't want any smoke, and with him losing to Kell Brook in this hypothetical situation, it will further clarify or further prove the point that Terence Crawford at welterweight, he isn't who we thought he was. I mean, it's just, to me, I feel like this Kell Brook fight and Kell Brook and Terence Crawford fight is definitely going to clear up a lot of the confusion that's at 147. And it starts with this fight taking place, but the second step will definitely be what happens with Shawn Porter and the winner, since Shawn Porter is ranked #1 by the WBO. And especially, it makes it even more interesting because the Terence Crawford and Kell Brook fight, it happens before the Danny Garcia Errol Spence fight And before we figure out what's going to happen with the WBC, it'll definitely be a great opportunity to say, hey, Shawn, Terence Crawford beat the guy that beat you. You're ranked number 1. Are you going to go after that belt? Or you can say to Kell Brook, hey, Kell Brook, your number 1 mandatory is Shawn Porter. Hey, Shawn, the guy that took your belt back in 2014, he beat the guy that they had crowned as the number 1 pound for pound guy. Are you going to go after him? So we'll see how everything plays out. I just find this to be a very interesting situation. And this fight between Terence Crawford and Kell Brook is a lot more telling for the welterweight division than is being mentioned. It's a lot more beyond who's better between Terence Crawford and Kell Brook. It'll definitely put things into perspective when it comes to Shawn Porter and what he's truly about. Is Shawn Porter simply chasing that green belt just to maximize his dollars, or is Shawn Porter about gathering all of the belts, becoming the undisputed champion, and putting himself in a position where he can become unified and an undisputed champion? We'll see how all this shit play out. It's Nino Brown Boxing. Shout out to the LDBC, and I'm out.